Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you for today.
Thank you.
It's wobbly stick time.
Bye. Wobbly
Bye.
stick.
Have a beautiful time. So I rode to work, and I was so locked in, man. I was so locked in. I was praying to baby Jesus to save me. And look at this, the first thing I got to handle now are these stairs with snow on them. How's this gonna go? How's this gonna go? So I took the pads, where they were way too locked in. I moved them forward, and I tilted and shifted them because they felt as constraining as the Clarks, because I got limited dorsiflexion from the small indent at the bottom. The small indent at the bottom prevented me from bending my ankles, and all that left me with is limited ankle dorsiflexion and bending at the hip to absorb bumps while bending at the hip. Oh my god. Oh my god. What is this shit show here? So now I'm less locked in, but still locked in. And I can lift my heels a tiny bit. But I was like so ultra locked in that I hardly had any space to move now. And when I was riding to work, I could hardly see, because it was minus 10 C now. It's like 14 Fahrenheit. It was so damn cold, man. Oh shit. That was some nice warm tar. Smoking. Smoking. How's my wheel after that? Yeah, so I'm still very locked in. So it's all good. But I was like really too locked in before. I could hardly have any turnout of my knees at all. And I want to have a turnout on the MSX. The turnout just means that your knees point outward a bit. I hate this road, man. I hate this road. And I had a lot of trouble getting the wheel up to speed. So there I could actually crouch down, you know, and bend my knees. So I guess I would shift the config. I tilted the pad, so here's the front, here's the back, like that. So it was just too tight. I had very little agility because of no turnout and very locked in. And the hard mode, and you know, I was like really one with the wheel. That's like a big commitment mode. So I'm gonna do as usual on this death hill here and do a new clip. New clip then. So directly I hit the front with the lower part of my shins. And to lean forward, I have to start standing straighter and opening my hips. I'll go around with the turnout on the right. And meeting there. So, you know, 48, 49, 50 kilometers an hour, I would guess, for this battery level. 13-kilometer ride to Lazy Rolling. So the configuration that I have now is similar to the other ones that don't have the heel hook. So the top indent, even though it's larger than the Clark pad, it's the bottom indent that is limiting my ankle dorsiflexion. Probably with some adjustments. I'll take another path today and I'll go over the bridge because we've got some nice sun there. I see now what I did with the selfie stick. I cracked the metal. So maybe I'll put some glue there, or maybe I'll get a selfie stick that doesn't suck, since I do this every day. I film every day, just about. So after the ride to work, and after the ride now, and the repositioning of the pads and so on, I would say that performance-wise, and indent feeling-wise, and turnout riding-wise, and agility-wise, they're a perfect competitor to the Clark pads. Sai is based in England. Since the 16X can be torque controlled with just ankle power, then the feeling will be the same on the 16X with the lock-in, with less need for a turnout for high-speed riding, because the 16X will just go on its own. So that is my prediction regarding the 16X. Regarding high-speed riding on this MSX, or for my EXN, I would say no to these pads. And this is clearly stated on Sai's website, where he says that these are a less agile pad and they are more for tricking or, you know, some technical trails and stuff, something where you need to have more torque and more lock-in and more heel lock-in and so on. So I don't know how I would feel about doing hill climbing with this, since hill climbing requires also quite a bit of ankle dorsiflexion and lean over the wheel, and then you'll get stuck hinging on your hips, and I just don't think that that's a favorable position. And I don't think falling and losing traction on a hill while being ultra locked into your wheel is favorable either, for that matter, because you'll just basically lose traction, fall forward with the wheel locked onto your feet. But you know, nothing is free. So they are pretty much a perfect competitor, a perfect style of locked-in side pads compared to the Clark pads. Limited dorsiflexion and all, so no matter how big the indent is at the top, it's not enough to offset the foot hook, limiting my dorsiflexion. I'm gonna take a photo of this. This is just too damn good, man. So I was worried that this bike path would be shitty, but they actually cleaned it up. That's amazing, man. That's amazing. I'm gonna park my ass. I'm gonna take a lovely photo of this, man. Go take a nap over there, little fella. But this one's for you, fellas. Hope you enjoy. Yeah, before I forget, the important things, right? The jump pads, after all. They jump. They jump. Yeah, buddy. Turn out safe. Turn. Get the gears up. So this is Trekanten, the triangle. It's a nice lake here. We've got some nice afternoon sun. It's around 1:30. Very relaxing. This lake is interesting. People are walking across it. You know, you might as well. It's not every day we get to pretend we're Jesus and walk on that water, man. So let's see, my weight plus the wheel, 23.5. I guess that's something. Still won't be 100 kilos even. Look at that. Look at that. Ain't that pretty? You can just sit down and chill as people walk in the middle of the path directly towards you, challenging you, while you are holding a stick in your hand, a hard piece of plastic on it. There you go. So they gotta be a bit further back, or my feet will end up too far front. I don't have a mega, I don't have a crazy toe lock here, right? But I do have heel lock. I have some space to move my foot up. So let's see the first impression. My heels aren't as crazy locked as they were yesterday on the MSX, because that was just too much. So I can move my feet around here a bit and still have the support. Because I'm not going to do any tricking on this wheel with its bent pedal hanger. You know, and I usually don't go nuts on it. It's just like a nice wheel to cruise on. So, you know, in the end, the indent at the bottom was what determined the range of motion on my ankles. And the range of motion on my ankles is what limited me to a certain speed on the MSX. And for me to get past that, because this is a dorsiflexion issue, for me to get past that, I have no more dorsiflexion, because the front pad is in the way, the front block is in the way, although I can lift my heel a tiny bit here, since it's not 100% locked in as it was with the MSX. So what happens when you're riding and you can't lean forward with a bent hip and with bent knees is that in the end you'll have to elongate your body, and when you elongate your body, then you will just basically be doing a Superman lean forwards. And I simply don't like that. That is not in line with my riding style, because I feel very exposed doing that. I feel that if I hit a bump and have that kind of forward lean, that I could lose balance forward. Right? When I'm a bit lower, I have a bit of a lower center of gravity, just as seated riders like the stability of seated riding, because they feel that there is improved stability there. So if we look at the actual wheel, we see that the pads are further back than what would be the middle of the wheel. And the same goes for the Clark pads. And this just has to do with foot positioning. And I have small feet, but I'm wearing large shoes. So I'm wearing a size European 42, I'm usually a 40. And that's because I have my winter riding socks on. So I hit the brakes, nice and easy here. That's no problem at all. So this is just like this is very, very similar to the Clark pads. Without the Clark pad price tag, they are a bit larger. They have a bit of a larger indent at the top. But since my ankle and the bottom indent is what becomes limiting for me because I'm a short person. But on the other hand, I do have small feet. So I imagine it would be similar for other riders. And then in a way I know this. Well, the other side pads, I don't remember the name, but I will put the name here. There's always someone. So I'll put the name here of the ones, and those are the ones that I use the most on my MSX. And the ones that I used on the 60NX the other day. But on the 60NX, it's not really an issue of leaning that much, because it's just like so easy to get the wheel moving, and you can torque the wheel with your heels. You can actually torque the wheel with a heel lock, because you're not in that much further forward leaning position as you are with the MSX. So when it comes to the MSX and when it comes to the Nikola and when it comes to the high speed wheels, I have to say that I do not like the ones with the heel lock, because I end up riding a bit on the balls of my feet. A bit, a lot of pressure on the balls of my feet. Some kind of staggered stance as well. And when it comes to a staggered stance, if you have a staggered stance on these kinds of pads, if you jump the wheel, you'll jump staggered, and I've done that, and that's no fun at all. Doing a staggered jump and the wheel landing 30 degrees twisted, man, I was lucky. I got lucky. So I'll stop recording for now, and I'll update in a bit once I get to some proper asphalt. Sick of Leo's riding. As I started to push forward, and my heel wanted to go up, I noticed that I was going around. Instead of pushing at the front of the pad, I was going around here. And when I do that, and I use my turnout, then I can get this staggered stance. But if I were to have a harder heel lock, then I would torque with the heels instead. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. I'm too cool for school. So something that happens when you hit those kind of bumps is I would like to bend down a bit to lower my center of gravity so that I don't get slowed down when hitting the bump, where the wheel will slow down, but my tall and elongated body will continue to go forward. So you just reduce the leverage by lowering your body. By moving my feet backwards, I can actually apply better torque to the front of the pads. Maybe I don't have to hit 45 kilometers an hour on a slight incline at minus 5 degrees C. But you know, for illustration purposes. That turn with the turnout is important to me. Hitting both pads at the front symmetrically can cause a wheel to oscillate side to side. So I prefer to stagger, and I can stagger here. Here's a bump. Now I want to absorb. But when I absorbed that yesterday on the MSX, I had to absorb it by hinging at the hip, which is not good. Because the bias of your weight is forward. All I want is my weight to go down. So I want to apply torque from the bottom of the wheel. I don't want to apply torque from the top of the wheel. Because applying torque from the top of the wheel, doing this, it's hard to go back. It's a very big commitment. So it's hard to counter. It's hard to parry from that position. There's no going back. Here you can do it in another way. Oh, biggest snowflake ever just hit me in the eye. So let's just look at a little jump here. I couldn't twist my foot because of the heel lock, and therefore I couldn't counter. I wasn't able to parry. Let's see again. Yeah, it's also because this asphalt is very grippy to do some kind of backwards carving. But with practice, you know. So the jumping, the foot position, the jumping. Good for me. If I can be here look, no.
Sound that pounds from within and is pinning me down.
Yeah, sorry about the closer angle today. Part of the selfie stick is broken. You know, I live my life like a bit of a poor ass, which is quite funny. Because in a way it teaches me gratitude. To appreciate the things that I do have. Instead of thinking about the things that I don't have. I have more than I need. But I don't have everything that I want. And that's life. That is life. Let's see the potato too. There you go. There you go. Go back to school. You didn't learn anything. Go back. Oh, the slushy games. Get some cross here. Yeah, so yeah. That's where the front comes in handy, so you don't fall off the front. The front here. The bonking pads. But those bonking pads, this kind of configuration and this kind of pad type with those kind of bonking pads, they're there and they're not there. So when they are there, you can hit them really hard. They asked me what's my YouTube channel. What am I gonna do? Yell it across the road? They will have to use their intelligence and their resources and see if they can find what this is. So when the pads are not there and then all of a sudden you hit them really hard at the front, you're hitting them with force, and if you do that you can over torque the wheel. So you just have to be aware of the configuration that you're riding. For my Nicola, for instance, as I tend to ride it at very high speeds, I have quite a bit of forward lean on it. But also I do use Frank's pads. So Frank's pads, which are the custom power pads, those are made of a high density foam and they are very high friction, which means no matter where you are on the pads, they will always support you, and they will support you front to back. Jesus. They will support you front to back, but they will support you up and down because they are high friction. So of course in the X and in the Y axis they will be high friction, which means they will pretty much keep you on the wheel unless you get like a brutal jump. But when it comes to the indent on Frank's custom pads, the indent is there, and then you have the actual bumper part on the front, the out dent. And when you hit that, since it is more like of a squishy foam, you're not hitting it hard, you're hitting it more progressively. So there is a sort of feeling of yielding towards it, the progressiveness, that it isn't just like the pad is there, the pad is not there. It's more like the pad is there, then the pad is a bit more there, then the pad is a bit more there, and then the pad is really there. So that means that you would have to be quite aggressive to get through the to like really yield through all of it and then hit the limit of the hard of the squish of the pad. So these are just configurations to consider. If we look at fast riders like Thomas, he really likes the custom power pads. I'm sure he would have a lot of trouble with these. Sitting is basically impossible because the heel lock won't allow you to raise your heels. You need to be able to do a turnout and you need to be able to raise your heels. You can do that in other configurations. You can do that with size other pads that don't have the heel lock, but then you're still forced to quite a turnout, and also you don't get stability by being able to hold the pads between your knees like you can do with Frank's pads. So these pads are different and they serve different purposes. Frank's pads can also be applied with Velcro. So that's what Thomas has done with the ones that he's borrowed from me. So yesterday, just as I was about to get home, I was like 1 minute from home. I was really locked into the MSX, and I was riding on a snowy path like this, and I rode off a bit to the side because of my reduced agility, and I hit some snow, and I was so locked into the wheel, and the wheel just spun out, tipped down, and with me on it, you know. So I made a snow angel. Whoa! Well, that was the power slide test. That was the power slide test. Obviously I can power slide on this wheel because man, it just shifted to the side, and I was like, damn, I'm going down, man, with the GoPro. And on this side, that's my bad side. I'm not coordinated on that side. Yeah. Just wanted to try a little torque in the burnout. I would need more of a secure fit to do a burnout. So this is not, since I'm not as locked in at the heels, or maybe the indent at the top is too big, I can't get the immediate high torque that I got on the Clark pads, because the indent there was actually smaller, which means I would be able to apply instant torque a bit sooner, for good and bad, you know. And then you have things like hill climbing, and you have things like going downhill, and you have things like jumping, and so on and so on. I would say that these are similar enough to Clark pads, and they come from a European provider, which is no longer European because of Brexit. But still, there are alternatives, right? And all this does is it just gives us choice, the luxury of choice. So let's enjoy that. Peace, brothers. Take care. All smiles, bro. Bacon and burgers, bacon and burgers. Soon you will have company from Huevos. Es muy bueno. Huevos. See you in hell, bitch. Sleep tight, motherfucker. P.S. Fuck you. Gooey.